And I was like, hey, what's the least you'll do, man, if I can get this wrapped up quick? I mean, I'll wrap it up fast, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He was like, and I was terrified. I was like, he's not going to negotiate with me. Um, and he's like, 260. I was like, done deal. Listen, even I'll do 260 and I'll donate $2,000 of my proceeds, $2,000 to the church on top of the 260. How's that? He's like, Joe, that's amazing. God bless you. Let's do the deal. I was like, boom, let's do it. So wrapped it up. I never even met the guy.
Wow.
Never
How
met
much
him.
was the assignment fee on that?
$87,000.
Ah, my gosh.
The
Woo!
monster. The biggest deal of my career, by the way. 60
Wow.
was 60 was the one prior to that.
What is up, guys? Zach in here. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. In today's podcast, we have Joe. Joe made over $120,000 last month in virtual wholesaling real estate while living in Los Angeles. I want to break down how Joe is crushing virtual wholesaling real estate. Most importantly, how you can do the same exact thing. Joe, welcome for coming on.
Thanks, Zach. Happy to hear, man.
Love it, man. So the reason why I have Joe on here, first of all, guys, I check the HUDs. He sends me $86,000 assignment fees, all this crazy stuff. I'm like, I gotta have him on. He keeps posting deals in the group. You probably have seen him in the group. It's insane. So I want to break down your business and really see how you're doing it so well. While so many people maybe struggle in virtual wholesaling, I want to see what you're doing right and how other people can do it. So introduce yourself. I mean, how do you get started in real estate wholesaling?
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of a while back that I got started. And I was just up late night, just typical college student, broke, didn't know what to do. And me and my friends were playing beer pong. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to end up like these freaking bozos. Like, I gotta do something. And so I remember one night specifically, I got home, watched it, what do you call them, infomercials, and I was like, dude, I think I could do that kind of thing. It sounded like I was stupid enough and like arrogant enough to believe that like that's gotta work, like that's gotta work, and just like the amount of like effort. And I thought I had skills in sales, so I was like, okay, it's not going to be that difficult. And something I never really share is I wanted to do it because I knew it would be like a challenge for me, like from my background, that I didn't have cash, I didn't have credit, and I wanted to be able to find a house for cheap. So I was like, this is great. Like, this was going to be a great idea. And so, long story longer, I got into like a mentorship group, and they completely just swindled me. And the one good thing that came about it was the VP of the company said, hey, why don't you do this thing called dealing? And I was like, what the hell is a dealing? What does that mean? And he was like, that's just what's wholesalers do. Basically, they find a property for cheap and sell it to us, and you make some money. So you're just basically a glorified middleman. And I was like, okay, cool, let me try. And so, like, for the next 2, 3 days, I stayed up, was drinking like 5-hour energy drinks. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out, man. I don't care what it takes. Like, I don't want to work for the man anymore. And I was working like part-time for AT&T, and I just hated the politics. Like, the number one thing for me was I cannot stand people that are fake. Like, and that's why I always praise you, Zach, because you're straightforward, dude. Like, you're not arrogant. You're straightforward. You're a hustler. You're a grinder. I know your dad, and dude, it's just for me, being straight up has always been something that I appreciate because it just takes much longer when people are full of it. And so that's basically how I got started, and I was very lucky. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So where were you at during this time and how did you get your first deal?
So Houston, Texas, and I was about 25, 26, and I got my first deal by after that meeting. I actually called a Craigslist ad at the time, and I was trying to wholesale. I was trying to buy this wholesaler's deal, acting like I was a seller. And he was like, dude, are you trying to wholesale my house? And I was like, yeah. and and he was like, listen, man, you're young, but what I'll do for you is I'll come have a beer with you, and we can talk, and I can try to help you. And I was like, great, okay, cool. And come to find out, he wouldn't like help me completely, but he offered just like some help. And so 6 months later, he said, well, at that time, he said, if you keep calling me, I can help you out. But if I get any openings, I'll hire you. Well, 6 months later, I kept on calling. Like that time, I kept on calling. And so basically, he helped me get my first deal by putting up Craigslist ads, and we split the deal 50-50. So he basically did a JV. And that was how I did my first deal. Coincidentally enough, I had never saw that house
Wow.
ever. So my first deal, and this is like 10 years ago. I'm an OG in this business now, but 10 years ago, man, and I'd never seen that house. And it freaked me out because I was like, this has to be illegal. Like, there's no way that this makes sense. I never saw the house. It's an hour and a half away. Like, are you telling me this is real? And like from there, I was just sprinting towards deals, man. I was hooked. So yeah, it's
Wow.
been a great ride.
So from 10 years to now, like, how did you start getting your like third, fourth, fifth deal? Like starting out young, like were you doing in person there? Like what was that situation? Your first 100K?
So great question. My second deal that I got was through actually in person. I went to see this property, and the lady was great. She was a little older, and she had been an old real estate agent. And she was like, I got to get rid of this condo. And I was like, okay, great. Actually got it under contract. From there, I think I made like 5 or 10 grand. It took me a while to start learning. And this is again 10 years ago. There's no YouTube, there's not a lot of free information. So I really had to learn from this guy. And he was running contests and everything was great. I just didn't feel like I was for that politics kind of situation. I just didn't like it. And so eventually he's just like, hey, you can go out on your own. And after that, I started learning direct mail. And then that's when I hit about, 125, 150 within my first like year and a half. And
Wow.
it was really, yeah, it was really when I hit it. So just direct mail that really got me there.
Wow. And were you going in person on these appointments yourself?
So yes, at these appointments, I was going by myself. It wasn't until later on that I actually started testing this virtual thing.
Yeah. And what was that process like? What was going on with that?
It was crazy, man. At the time, I had a girlfriend in Orange County. I was living in Houston, and I actually met her and I think it was I forget the guy's forum, but we met in a forum, and she was starting to wholesale and trying to get all that thing going. And yeah, we we ended up dating. I basically would go back and forth between Houston and California, and I wanted to test this thing out because I had sent accidentally a buyer, but he was a good buyer to one of my properties, and it worked out great. So I was like, dude, this has to work, and I know other people are doing this, so let's just keep it going. And from there, we were just doing deals left and right, left and right, left and right. And I was like, this is it, man. I don't have to stay in Houston any longer. This works. Like, eventually, it didn't work out with that girlfriend, but eventually, when the time was right, which was about 4 years ago, I made the move. So, yeah, it was amazing.
Wow. And how do you get to the point now where you're doing $100,000 plus months? Like what's your business looking like now?
So me, like I was saying off air, Zach, like I'm not a big fan of like having a bunch of people working under me. I feel like the topic, and I'm just going to be straightforward, like you are. A lot of this business glorifies like a big, shop, big office, big this, big that. My business is ran very smooth. Like I have got my VA, I got my dispo agent. I pretty much interchange an acquisitions agent here and there, but for the most part, 80%, I like to be on the calls with sellers. I like to talk to them. I like to get a feel for the economy, and I like to get a feel for the wholesaling landscape at a whole. So
Mm.
really, we spent about $10,000 in direct mail marketing. We hit niche list, big list, you name it, tax delinquents, all that jazz. And I filter it down where I have a phone system, and every single call that comes in, I can either answer it live or I can let it go to voicemail. And when we let it go to voicemail, we also have an auto texter. So immediately they get a text message saying, "Hey, are you guys interested in selling? Yes or no?" Because if I'm answering every single call live, even if it's a competitive market, I'm also like losing a lot of mental bandwidth. There's only so many people that can cuss you out and be like, "Hey, fuck you." Hey, no, I was just saying, "Hey, F you." You shouldn't be calling me or sending me mail, get me off your list. But, so that's the kind of filtration system I use. I only do direct mail marketing and a little bit of cold calling right now. And we spend about 5-10 grand in direct mail marketing every month. And right now I'm kind of doubling down. So that's pretty much the gist of our business. We're usually
Wow.
like a three-headed monster, four-headed.
A lot of people have a lot of questions here, for virtual wholesaling. So like, let's kind of bring it back. So we kind of talked about a little more of the marketing here.
Sure.
What's the acquisitions wise? Like, what's the process you talk to a seller? Because the biggest question a beginner is going to ask is like, hey, I can't virtually wholesale in LA with someone in Houston because I don't live in Houston. Well, what's your process for virtually wholesaling and talking with the seller so they're comfortable with the virtual wholesaling process?
Great question. So I'll be straightforward. We don't tell the seller that we're out of town. In this business, the more that you share, it's kind of like loose lips sink ships. Like if you're talking to a girl, you don't need to tell her your whole life story, man, upon meeting her. She doesn't need to know. You don't need to know. You don't need to tell her. So the reality is the first step that we say to the seller is, "Hey, listen, we're gonna talk about this property with you. We're gonna see if it's a great fit, and if it's a great fit, great. We're gonna send our guy out there to take pictures, and we don't ask, we lead. That's the
Mm.
major thing. We don't tell them, hey, is it okay if we send somebody there? It's no, hey, we're gonna send our picture runner, and once our picture runner's there, we're gonna be live on the phone with you. And if it makes sense, great. We're gonna sign an agreement right there and then we're gonna get the ball moving, and we just go from there. And the psychology dynamic there, Zach, is what I found to be one of the most impactful things in this. And what that means is when you show up with somebody that works for you, quote unquote, that instantly builds credibility in that seller's eyes.
Mm.
Oh, this guy's got a system. Oh, this guy's got a process. Oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, sounds confident. I listen to you on some of these YouTube streams, and you're knocking it out of the park, man. Like you're telling these sellers like, "Hey, give me a price. Hey, right now, what you just did earlier was brilliant. You were like, hey, so you said something like, what's it gonna take price wise?" And I was like, dude, I was in the gym, like, dude, that's
Oh, yeah.
awesome. That's the way you should be handling it. And so from there, we lock it up, we get it under contract, and we either have a lockbox on there, we put it on our contract, we're going to put a lockbox on there, and we just sell it, man. Pretty simple.
Wow. I mean, you got to make it simple. That's the way I do it. I think you're stalling I did a live cold call the other day. Today I got a guy down 45K, just kept it simple. I
Yeah.
don't spill the candy. Like I would say I don't lie to the seller, right? Like I don't think you're lying to them, but
Yeah.
like, why would I tell someone if I'm virtually wholesaling in Massachusetts, say I live in Florida? They don't care because of the confidence, right? Um, what are some tips that you have for talking to sellers over the phone that a beginner can take? Because you sound very good over the phone with these sellers.
Great question, man. You know, I would say get a little old school like me and go get on YouTube, look up Brian Tracy's Psychology of Selling, and you'll find out that, and you know, anything you can, but that's my favorite because it breaks down in a template sales. It breaks down sales in a template of just simplicity. Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm gonna do 75,000. I'm gonna pay all your closing costs. I'm gonna pay the escrow fees, the attorney fees. Okay, does that make enough sense? Okay, great. And then just little things like that, you know, competence will build confidence. And the
Mm,
more and more you learn about psychology and the more and more you learn about sales, it, you're going to go out there and do a lot better. You'll have more confidence, and sellers can smell that. And I'll give you a quick band-aid for a newbie. I'll give you a quick band-aid. If you don't know the answer to something, what you need to say is, hey, no problem, sir. Hey, John, don't ever say sir. I hate the word sir or ma'am in wholesaling. But hey, John, hey, Mike, listen, I don't know the answer to that completely, but my partner does. I'll get back with my partner and then I'll give you a holler. Okay. And then that way you don't sound like an idiot. One, two, you have enough confidence to say, hey, I don't know. And the person, sellers will catch on if you're a bullshitter and you're a bad bullshitter.
yeah.
Excuse my French. If you're, you know, a bad at confidence when giving your pitch, you know. So
Yep.
if you're straightforward and just say, hey, listen, I don't know, man, but my partner does, I'll get him and then I'll get back with you. And so there are a couple of tips that I've seen help other people. Yeah.
Okay. So you have your runner go out, take pictures, and then you go have a phone conversation with the seller during the same exact time.
So yes. So here's what I found. I found that if I'm on the phone as they're taking pictures and I'm getting them live, it builds like a common ground with the seller,
Mm,
and it builds like kind of a good atmosphere to close. And you don't want to be too, you don't want to pressure too much, but at the same time you have to know if there's motivation there, right? And so if there's not a lot of motivation, we're not going to go to the appointment. We got to know, we got to know immediately, like, hey, are you willing to sell and where are you at on the price? I will also not send a runner unless I know the price.
mm.
That's a big rule for me. Unless they're, and you and me, Zach, we get it. We're always getting numbers from the sellers, right? Like
Oh
we're
yeah.
always getting a number from our seller. Like, oh, no matter what. Like I always joke around with my dispo agent. I'm like, listen, dude, I don't even make offers. All I do is demand subtly what they're gonna sell me at. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
and here's, I'm gonna give the best secret sauce ever right now. Like this will completely revolutionize your business if you just do this one thing different. And the one thing is, guys, all you say, hey, what are you looking to get with the property within the first 30 seconds to a minute? Hey, Mr. Seller, great. Yeah, we're calling you back. Okay, great. So tell me a little bit about the house. Okay, great. So what do you want for it? Hey, tell me what you're looking to get for it. Dude, they're so off. They're like, their guard is so down. They're like, 20. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's do the deal now. And they're just like, they're so off guard, but at the same time, you're not building up to some kind of thing where you're like, okay, sir, here's my offer of 120,000 and I'm gonna pay. Like, it's just more of like a baseball card trade. Like, hey, I'm looking to just do this deal, man. Do you want 50 for it? Okay, cool. The more laid back you are and more confident you are, the better it's gonna come back. Like this big deal I just did, and I don't want to be too much of a rant here. But this big
Go ahead.
deal, this big deal, man, it was an attorney. The seller was an attorney, and he did
Wow.
not care at all, Zach. He was donating every single penny to the church
Wow.
because he inherited the property, man. He inherited the property, and the person that gave him that house was like, hey, the only thing I want you to do with it is donate every single cent. So when I was on the phone with him, I negotiated, and he wanted 280. And I was like, hey, what's the least you'll do, man, if I can get this wrapped up quick? I mean, I'll wrap it up fast, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He was like, and I was terrified. I was like, he's not going to negotiate with me. And he's like, 260. I was like, done deal. Listen, even I'll do 260 and I'll donate $2,000 of my proceeds, $2,000 to the church on top of the 260. How's that? He's like, Joe, that's amazing. God bless you. Let's do the deal. I was like, boom, let's do it. So wrapped it up. I never even met the guy.
Wow.
Never
How
met
much was
him.
the assignment fee on that?
$87,000.
Ah, my gosh.
The
Woo!
monster. The biggest deal of my career, by the way.
Wow.
60 was the one prior to that.
And how did you find that attorney and that lead there?
So that one was a direct mail lead. Prop
Okay.
stream. Yeah, prop stream. I did a whole area, including intra transfer. If you go onto the prop stream, you can include, right? You know, is there a transfer between, you know, families? Is there an airship or whatever? We select include. So we did a whole little suburb, and yeah, we got the deal, man. We're really lucky. And here's the kicker. You want to hear something crazy? This guy, I was about to go on a jet ski, dude. I was literally like 5 minutes away from getting on a jet ski, and I was turning the block and I saw his missed call, and I had a moment of like laziness. I was like, am I going to return the call, or am I just going to go on this jet ski? It's Sunday, like 2 o'clock. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Nobody's going to pick up the phone on a Sunday. So I called the guy back. We literally have the most succinct, efficient conversation ever. And he gives me the number. He tells me the situation. He's like, cool, we'll talk to you Monday or Tuesday. I'll talk to you Tuesday. We'll get this thing going. It's like, great, let's do it. So, you know, don't let that laziness creep in, guys, because it'll creep in, especially if you get a good month.
Wow. I mean,
So, yeah.
congrats on that. There's a lot more in there for you. So let's talk about the
Thanks, man.
disposition side. So I heard you said you had dispositions agent. So how are you selling these deals?
So I basically do a twofold system. So one, I have a giant buyers list, and the buyers list that I do, I've accumulated over the years, and I also traded lists with people back in the day. And so we send out with MailChimp. We'll also use a dispo agent. A friend of mine used to work for another company, and then I brought him on. I pay him about 10%, 15% sometimes. But yeah, you know, we just ended up blasting it. And then I called a JV guy for this particular deal, and he helped me sell it. So typically we use the list. We don't do mass text blast, but I want to kind of get into that. But yeah, just our list is usually our go-to.
Wow. Okay. And so the last month, 120K, I'm assuming that 87,000 was in there, right?
Yeah.
And what were the other ones in there?
So the other one was actually just another deal. It was a wholesale deal that I closed on, and then I put it on the MLS and sold it like 30, 45 days later. I wholetailed um, and just closed on it with the lender and then put it right back on the market, and we sold it. I was hoping to sell it for more, but I sold it for about 32, 33,000.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah,
And you're
man. Yeah, man.
a lot of people think you got to do like 50 deals a month just to get 120K, and it's really the small, big ones that make it all happen. I mean, what is your secret to getting these big margin deals?
Dude, I'll tell you, it's how I ask.
Hmm.
It's really how I ask, because I always line this up with like dating. And it's when I tell people I've talked to I've talked to like big groups in Houston. I've spoken in front of like 200, 300 people, and I said, listen, you got to be able to go in and talk to the prettiest girl. You got to be able to like go up and say, hey, what's up? Like, you don't have to say hi, blah blah blah, and talk for 30 minutes. You just have to approach. Half the battle is just the approach, guys. Like, it really is. If not more, I mean, honestly, 80% is the approach. Within the first 30 seconds to 2 minutes is so vital. So my secret sauce is like I never really make offers ever. I'm always just like, hey, what do you want for it, man? Okay. Hey, and it's just all of my tone, like all of my deliveries. Like, hey, man, so what are you looking to get for it, John? Hey, tell me what you want for it, John. Okay, gotcha, brother. Gotcha. Okay. So that's really it, man. And then I built a lot of rapport. Remember, earlier I asked you on the stream, like how do you value building rapport on a scale, right? And with cold calling, I don't think there's a lot of room to build rapport, but with direct mail, I think it's almost imperative
Oh yeah.
because they're older. Usually, the most people that do answer direct mail are older. They want to have an old school approach, like, "Who are you? How do I know you're not scamming me?" So I spend a lot of time with direct mail, and I always, as a rule of thumb, spend about 20 to 30 minutes on the phone with them, and I'm very sweet. Like I'm a jerk in real life, but with them, I'm very sweet. I'm very sweet. I'm like, hey, I have a nice friendly tone. Hey, John, like, hey, how you doing today? Hey, Mary, like, how can I help you? Immediately when I answer the phone, if I answer it live, I say, hey, this is Joe. How can we help you? Like, literally, that's it. Simple. So I'm not a jerk, man, and I never argue with sellers ever. I'm just a friendly guy. Now on the dispo side, if I have to sell a deal, and there's not I'm in between dispo people, then I'm a real jerk, right? Because those guys are trying to screw you, and you kind of
Yeah.
have to, do the whole, song and dance.
Wow. It's true,
Yeah,
man. So
it's
Joe,
true.
you're absolutely crushing it, man. It's so inspirational to see somebody like just going out here and living their dreams and making ton of deals virtually that like where so many people make excuses for me. Every single person in LA watching this should understand what Joe's doing. Reach out and see how you guys can be of value, and it's amazing. Joe, if you could go back in time and tell that same person that was at that bar starting out, like a couple quick tips to help ease all the pain that you probably did in the last 10 years, what would you tell that person?
Um, I would say like network with guys like Zach, young-minded people, strong-minded people. He's a hoss, man. This guy gets after it, and it's beautiful to see. So like, surround yourself with people that matter towards your dreams. That's the biggest thing. And you really just want to cut out so many negative people. To this day, I still like try to cut off as much as possible, because those things really have a sneaky way to like attack your psyche or attack your mood. And a lot of those people aren't going to be for you at the end of the day. So you have to be very cognizant of that, and people are very sly today. So I would say that number two, um, spend more money in marketing. I was
Mm.
always like terrified in the beginning of my career, like, oh man, like I'm just gonna put out bandit signs, like I don't want to spend this money direct mail, like. So then I would end up, going 4 or 5 months without a deal, and so I would just say, do get good friends, good allies in this business. Go to network meetings if you can, or whatever, and also just focus on, you know, cutting out the negative, man. So
Mm.
these things, spend money in marketing, and those three things are big keys. So yeah.
Beautiful. Joe, I really appreciate it, man. How can people reach out to you if they have questions, if they want to get started in wholesaling, or like just any questions, like where they can reach out to you?
Find me on Instagram. Pretty simple. Wholesale and chill is my IG handle. Wholesale and chill. You can watch my stories. Feel free, if you have a deal, bring me a deal in Houston. I got a ton of buyers. But yeah, love to help.
Awesome. Joe, I really appreciate it. Any parting thoughts to anyone watching, starting out, for them?
No, man, just you know, Zach's crushing it. I'm crushing it. So like don't be afraid or overanalyze
Mm.
what we're doing. What Zach's doing works, obviously. What I'm doing works, obviously. You go try to be a drop shipper, or sell puppies, or whatever the heck is the cool thing to do today. Forex, joke. Like, just you have to understand, there's so many more houses and there's so many deals nationwide. When it comes to these other businesses, just the margins aren't there, and the saturation, like, a customer to you, like, you got all your competition kicking your butt. But when it comes to real estate, it's proven. Like, that's
Oh
the
yeah.
thing that has gotten me to this point. Like, the confidence. Like, dude, if I'm gonna go open up a bar or restaurant, like, there's a million bars. Who's gonna want to go to my place? Like, there's a lot of cool places. Like, why are they gonna go to my place versus, the other cool places they're already going to? So real estate's proven for a reason, and just go into it with that. Go in with it full force. Don't second guess. The most people that lose in this business are the people that let their mom, their dad, their friends, their girlfriend influence them. And guys, they're just projecting. They're projecting their loser attitude onto you, because they want to keep you down, and they want to, like, oh, I can't do it, so like John can't do it. Yeah, forget that. No, man, this business works, and I'm a testament to it. Um, Rick, Zach's a testament to it. Just got to do the work, man. Just plug away. Don't make it hard.
Awesome. Joe, I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see your success, and hopefully have you on next year, and see how many more $86,000 deals you got. I believe in you, man.
Heck
Thank you
yeah,
so much for
man.
hopping
Thank you,
on.
brother. Yeah, my
Thanks.
pleasure.